Hello, everybody. Jake here, and welcome back to another episode of What's Hot and What's Not inside of the hobby. Right now, obviously, there's way more stuff that is hot rather than not, but there's actually quite a few products and cards that are just going down in price or not really climbing in price. And this Brute Bonnet is actually one of my favorite example because if you can see on the screen, there was a massive spike for this card right around March. And that's because this is a Tomokozu Komiya card. It, along with the Drowsy, as well as a bunch of other Tomokozu Komiya illustration cards, went up really rapidly. It went from being a $7, maybe $5 card all the way up to a $35 card. And just as quickly as it went up, it went back down within the period of a week or two and went back to pretty much its normal price point. Right now, it's going for the exact same price that it was before this massive Tomokozu Komiya hype. And so it really goes to showcase that sometimes people say, hey, why don't you just buy out a card if you want to market manipulate it? And generally speaking, market manipulation is really risky. Can you buy out a card? You can. Can you buy out 100 copies of this Brute Bonnet on TCG Player and make it climb really fast? You can, but at the same time, it could just as easily go down. By the time that you picked up all of these copies at $20 or $35, the market's corrected itself and it goes right back down to $15 or $5, and you've lost all the value that you spent buying out the market on this card. So market manipulation isn't so easy. It's super risky, which is why I don't recommend it. However, if you like to just keep track of your Pokemon cards like I am on the screen, then I highly recommend you check out today's sponsor, which is the Collector app. The Collector app is a super intuitive tool that is available on mobile. If you are using Apple or Android, you can download the Collector app on your phone. It is super easy to keep track of all of your collectibles. I have my whole entire Pokemon card collection currently tracked on the Collector app, and it's been going pretty crazy. I think we may be close to right around $400,000 in value. And I know I said that number is absurd, especially for what I picked up some of these items at, and I still stand by that. I think my collection's value is really inflated right now, and it keeps going up. And so if you'd like to keep track of your own collection or see what's inside of my collection, you can check out the Collector app today. It's super intuitive, super easy to use. You can add cards to your collection, keep your cards favorited so you can see when they are going up and down, and you can scan your cards to know exactly what you're looking at. If you can't even find your card, you can just scan it on the Collector app and it'll tell you what Pokemon card you have. Try out the Collector app today, and all of the data from today's video is coming from the Collector app. Thank you again to them for sponsoring today's video. We're going to look at some products that are going down right now first, and the first one up is the Twilight Masquerade Elite Trainer Box. This ETB was going for as cheap as $35 this time last year, so that's below MSRP, and it's been slowly climbing all this time, all the way up till right around the end of August, and there was a large restock of the Twilight Masquerade Elite Trainer Box, at least over here in the US. And the interesting thing is that it immediately tanked the market on the Twilight Masquerade ETBs. It went from being a $90 to $100 ETB all the way down to $70 practically overnight, and it's staying strong at that price point. So this gives me a lot of hope in that if a sealed product is restocked, such as a booster box of Surging Sparks, Destined Rivals booster boxes, whatever gets restocked down the line, it is likely it could see a similar massive drop off because every single card shop would be getting more supply of it. And we're getting more Twilight Masquerade ETBs well into the life cycle of Twilight Masquerade. So something like this could absolutely occur with Destined Rivals ETBs, Black and White ETBs, you name it, and these products that are newer could still be restocked. So it's very interesting how quickly this drop happened. It's almost immediately a massive drop. So this does give me a lot of hope for the sealed product market, especially for newer products. Some other cards that have been just constantly dropping or staying really stagnant are some of the Prismatic Evolution cards. The best pickups are still things like the Umbreon EX from Prismatic Evolutions that's slowly climbing again because it's incredibly desirable for a lot of investor bros. But if you look at most of the cards inside of Prismatic Evolutions, they've been consistently dropping and they are not climbing. What this pretty much means is people are picking themselves up the Sunbreon EX and nothing else. They're just picking up the card that they think is the best card inside of the set, and they're not picking up any of the other evolutions. They're just letting them go. So that's what's happening, is they're just picking the best cards rather than the whole entire set. So a bunch of the other EVs, such as the Jolteon, the Flareon, the Glaceons, they've been just slowly dropping in price. And cards like the Umbreon EX is now starting to climb back up in price. It's kind of crazy how that looks. Some other cards that have been constantly dropping in price include Journey Together cards like this Lily's Rabombi. It went from being a $40 card at release and almost very quickly over the course of a month or two plummeted down to right around $5, and it's never gone back up. It's very interesting to see what the market decides as a good card or not, because this is a really cool card. It features a Lily on a really nice illustration rare, but the market doesn't seem to think that way, and that's completely okay. The hobby does not have to decide that everything is cool, and sometimes things are underrated and they go miss. Some other cards, again, this Roulege super cool illustration rare was going for as much as $45 at peak hype, and I remember a lot of my chat when I was walking around vending shows would tell me to pick up this card. In fact, I think I picked up this card because my chat told me to. And you guys can see it just went down to being right around $15. It started climbing again, but this is because, honestly, Surging Sparks is still being restocked quite often, and this is a really cool card. I think at $15, this is an easy pickup, and it's probably not going to get much cheaper than that. This is a really cool illustration rare. I don't see a world where it becomes literally cheaper than 2 or 3 Surging Sparks booster pack. If you rip open 2 to 3 Surging Sparks booster pack, you're likely to be happier just having this card. If you rip open those booster packs, then you should probably pick this card up for $15. Some other cards that have been dropping but have recently started climbing again, and that's Destined Rival cards. This Team Rocket's Meowth came out to be right around $60. It plummeted down to as low as, $20, $25, and since then it started to climb again. $20 to $25 is a perfect price for this card. It's Team Rocket's Meowth. It's got Giovanni in the card. The illustration is kind of neat. You have to like this style illustration. If you don't like it, that's completely okay. But a card like this reaching $25 to $20 is exactly right. I can't imagine popular illustration rares like these getting much lower than that. So it started to climb right around 40 again. Makes sense. Some other cards that have dropped and never really climbed includes the Doxbun. It went for right around $40, right around, again, there was a large spike in hype around February to March. It went down and it's never really recovered. Although this is still cool SIR, I think right around $30 is a fine card for it, especially right around Thanksgiving season again. Looks delicious. I will eat you up. Some other cards that have really just never recovered include things like this Execute illustration rare. Again, large period of hype right around February and March. It tanked and it just never recovered. It just stayed right around $5. If you open up a single Surging Sparks booster pack and you pull this illustration rare and you're happy about that, then just pick up this card raw. It's a $5 illustration raw. I think this is one of those cards where you can pick up and you'll lose zero sleep over it. And this is one of those cards that I could see one day. I'm not saying tomorrow, I'm not saying the next day, but it's a cool illustration rare, and some of these illustration rares I can see appreciating in the future, but they are dropping right now at their all-time lowest. Another really cool card, and I wanted to showcase a vintage card, because sometimes people think if a card is out of stock, it should only ever go up. And here you can see how rapid the market can be for a vintage card. We got ourselves a first edition Jungle Eevee. There was a ton of Prismatic Evolutions hype, right? So as we're riding up the wave of before the release of Prismatic Evolutions, first edition Jungle Eevee is climbing. You can see Prismatic Evolution releases. It's going for peak price of around $20. And then it starts dropping and dropping. You can see the cycle immediately right around Prismatic Evolutions being announced right here. November of last year, Prismatic Evolutions was announced. Some of the cards were revealed, and the hype takes over first edition Jungle Eevee. It keeps going up. It's going up 300, 400%. February is peak Prismatic Evolutions hype, and then it just drops off a cliff. And so just be careful of some of the hype out there. Cards that are old and vintage and should be out of stock, as in people aren't ripping open first edition jungle packs anymore, they can still drop quite dramatically in price as demand falters. It's not all about supply side. The final card I want to look at was this Dondozo card. I love the artwork on this card. It spiked, same as every other card around February and March. It dipped and it never really recovered, although it's starting to climb again. So I wanted to mention that, is that some of these cooler, underrated illustration rares that I think have fantastic artworks are slowly starting to get appreciated, which is really interesting. And now we are moving to the hot cards right now, and there are a ton of them, so I had to be pretty selective about what cards are currently climbing. And this is just the trend. These are cards that are currently climbing. Lots of it is really interesting illustration rares that I'm not super surprised by. Things like this mouse hold. Like this mouse hold stood out to me on release immediately. I thought it was a really cool design. I'm not surprised that it just consistently has been climbing. It's just been consistently going up. Don't get me started on the PSA 10s. They have gone through the roof. This is close to being $1,000 illustration rare. PSA 10 right here, which is crazy, and there's actually quite a few of these where they've reached this kind of price point, and this is just one of them. Some other cards that have been climbing consistently include things like this Mewtwo V-Star. Again, this should not be super surprising. Mewtwo is incredibly popular. This is Mewtwo fighting Charizard, two really hype Pokemon right now. It was going for as low as $40 to $50 last year, and right now it's going to be about $200 raw. So that's a pretty huge jump. Another card that's been consistently climbing, also from Crown Zenith, is the Mew illustration rare or Galarian Gallery card. I think I actually purchased this card inside of my beginner $100 budget challenge at the start of this year, and it was going for right around $8 or $10 at the start of this year. I picked up a copy of it, and it's now going for $40 to $45, and this one climbing is no surprise. It's just a really cool art piece. A lot of the cards that are climbing like this should not be that surprising, you know? Maybe you're surprised by the mouse hold. I think it's a cool art piece, but there are a lot of good illustration rare art pieces. So this one consistently climbing. I guess, I don't know, maybe it's some Disney fans out there. But cards like the Mewtwo V-Star and the Sleepy Mew climbing should not be a surprise to anyone. These are just really, really good, solid art pieces that every single collector can sort of agree is good. Good art just accepts that. And then we got some other ones, such as the Stellar Crown Squirtle. This also includes the Bulbasaur, but both of these have been climbing again quite rapidly, actually. So I just wanted to mention that they had a dip between February to March. Most illustration rares did, but these have recovered quite well, and that's because it's Squirtle and Bulbasaur. I'm not surprised that these are starting to recover. Some other cards that have been climbing, Rayquaza cards have been climbing quite rapidly, and that's mainly because there's some rumors that Rayquaza is going to make a big return as a Mega Pokemon inside of an upcoming set. Whether that's true or not, we don't know yet, but you can see a lot of people are already buying the rumors right now, and Rayquaza cards doubling in the past month just off the rumors of an upcoming Rayquaza release. But just be aware, after a release, a lot of these cards can drop down again. Another card that has been really, really consistently climbing is the Detective Pikachu Growlithe promo card. This one's really, really, really cool. It just consistently goes up. Like, this card is bonker. As far as a Pikachu collector goes, I'm not surprised. Like, this is clearly one of the best Pikachu artworks that has been released in recent memory as a promo card. It just stands out. This art just stands out even amongst Pikachu promo cards. Like, this is a really cool art piece. I'm not surprised that it's climbing this rapidly. It's a really cool art piece. It never came out in English. If this card came out in English, I don't think the Japanese version would have seen this kind of climb. But because it never came out in English, and this is kind of like a Japanese exclusive, it's seeing this massive climb, and it's just a consistent winner. But it can't go up like this forever. I will say this Mount Everest that it's currently climbing has to end at some point. Some other cards that have been, whoa, look at that graph. Whoa, look at that graph. It's going up like a roller coaster Tyranitar illustration rare from Paldea Evolve. A bunch of the less popular illustration rares, still really popular, but just not the Magikarp from Paldea Evolve, have started to really climb because people are saying, okay, the Magikarp is really expensive inside of Paldea Evolve. Paldea Evolved is pretty out of stock. What else can go up? And the Tyranitar is a clear favorite in here. And same with the Mousehold. The Mousehold is also from Paldea Evolve, which is, a $400 to $500 booster box. So it's just climbing really rapidly. Don't get me started on the PSA 10 prices. Disgusting level. These are both hitting close to $1,000 in the PSA 10. The Mimikyu illustration rare from the Paldean Fates ETB. Again, climbing quite rapidly. Sometimes people don't notice, but there's actually a lady here. There's a lady sewing right here. She looks kind of weird because she doesn't look like a Pokemon trainer or character. It looks almost like a Gothic American or European art style. It doesn't look very Japanesey. Drawn by Misahiro Orita. Really cool Mimikyu promo card from the ETB. And this card is just, again, climbing quite rapidly. Used to be less than $1 for this illustration rare promo card, ETB, whatever you want to call it. And it's going for well over $10 now. Look at that PSA 10 graph too. Skyrocketing. At some point it went for, I don't think it went for as low as $11. I can't believe that's true. It probably did go for right around $30. This is the non-Pokemon Center stamp version too. And it just goes up. This is like a 500% return in the course of 4 months. Crazy stuff. Final card that I wanted to showcase that is just consistently going up. We got ourselves the Gengar and Mimikyu from Team Up. This was a card that I gave away multiple copies of in my holiday giveaway like 5 years ago or 6 years ago at this point. And yeah, it used to be like a $3 or $4 ultra rare card that I could give away for the holidays, but now it's going for $240. Wow, Jesus. And this is a regular ultra rare. So crazy things can happen to just good art. This ultra rare is just good art. If you open up a Team Up booster pack, which is $250, and you pull this, you would probably be pretty happy. Getting any hit from Team Up is cool, and this is a pretty solid one. It's about as good as getting the Gengar and Mimikyu alt art version. So yeah, so these are the cards that are currently climbing, and I like to showcase that cards that climb are not shocking. Sometimes people ask me, hey, did you notice this card climb? And it's because it's a good card that is out of stock and people like it. The supply of it being scooped up is too high, and it's not because of hype. Something like the Tomokozu Komiya card. Those arts are good too, but the spike was not natural, right? If you look at this graph, this is a very natural graph of a card appreciating just because it's got good art. And I think a lot more cards should see some kind of graph like this. Maybe not as rapid, because this is kind of ridiculous. This is 1 year. From 1 year, it went from being a $50 card to like a $250 card. That's a little bit too rapid. But this is what should happen to good collectibles, is that if people appreciate them, they'll climb up in value. And what I wanted to showcase was that a lot of the cards that are climbing are not surprising. This Mewtwo V-Star climbing should shock no one. This Sleepy Mew climbing should shock no one. Some of the cards like this Tyranitar V, it shouldn't climb this quickly, but it shouldn't surprise you. This is a really good art piece. It's from Paldea Evolved. It probably was going to climb someday, maybe not this rapidly, like this is a little bit too insane, but it probably deserves to be, some level of more expensiveness. Paldea Evolve has only gotten more expensive over the past 12 months. Paldea Evolve literally went from being a $120 booster box to being a $500 booster box. Why would this illustration rare that is very popular inside of the set not climb, So at a certain point, the market just needs to see that, and boom, it goes. So some of this, I think, is not market manipulation, which is interesting. So let me know what your thoughts are. Thank you so much for watching. These have been the hot and not cards from the hobby right now. Appreciate you guys. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll see you next time.